Welcome everyone to my tutorial video for Desire to Learn. So you can see here we're at the My Lambton portal where you log in as a student, so we'll go ahead and do that. We'll get logged in and it brings you to your student homepage. Here you have access to your web advisor, your Lambton email, virtual desktop, and Desire to Learn. So we'll go ahead and click on the D2L link. Brings you to your D2L homepage. Now anywhere, if you get messing around with this and you need to get back to your homepage, you can always click on My Home. It's going to bring you back to this page. Okay, to the right of that, you can see it says select a course. If you click the drop down menu, any course that you're currently in, and as well as some courses that you have completed, will be in this list. Now sometimes courses get deleted right away when you're done them, and sometimes they hang around for a while, but any course that you're currently in will definitely be in this list. On the top right hand side, you have message alerts. Now there's two options to this. You have your pager as well as your email. Now the pager, in my experience, isn't often used, but it is a good system for messaging internally inside Desire to Learn. So you can only message people that have a Desire to Learn account at Lambton College. So other students or teachers basically is what you're limited to. You can see you have your inbox. I sent this lady a message just to see how it would work. So you can see it's very much just like an instant messaging where they've replied to a message here, but if I wanted to say, okay, thanks, and then I would just hit send. I'm not going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so next to the inbox, you also have your friends list. I only have the one friend because I only use this just the once to see how it works, so I could show you guys. Next to friends, you do have a class list. So if you want to see if somebody's in D2L and you want to shoot them a quick message, you can use your class list to see if they're online, as well as it's a quick way to message them. Now if you went into this from a specific course and you wanted to message someone in a different course, you just click the drop down menu, select whatever course a friend is in, and it's going to pull up a class list for that specific class. Okay, so that is the pager. Very similarly, you do have email. Email is very similar to any other email service that you may use. You can see you have an inbox, sent mail, drafts, trash, and address book. Now one important thing to note about Desire to Learn email is it's internal only. You can only send email to other Lambton College students within Desire to Learn. You cannot email someone at their Microsoft account or their Gmail account or anything like that. It's only within Desire to Learn. Okay, so generally it will default to all messages, so that means that any email that you received in the Desire to Learn system will show up here in this list. Now if you're looking for an email that was sent by a teacher or by a friend in a specific course, you can click the drop down menu, filter by, select the course that you're looking for, and then all the messages you've received for that specific course will show up in the drop down menu view pane. Okay, so if you want to compose an email, you can go ahead and click Compose. Here you can see it's very much like a general email service. You have a to and a subject line. You can see here that I've set up my signature. I'll show you where you can do that a little bit later on. You can see you have all your rich formatting options here, like bold, italic, underline, as well as your font sizes, colors, and etc. Now, a lot of times you may not know the Desire to Learn email address of the person you're trying to message, so a very valuable tool is the address book. Clicking on that brings up another pop-up window. You can see you have your to, your copy, and your blind copy. Now this will always default to system contacts. Now you can see that there's 352 pages of contacts here, so it can be very tedious if you're looking for a specific person. So the best way, generally you're going to know what class they're in. This also works if you're trying to email the teacher of the class. All you need to do is click your drop down menu next to filter by, pull up the class you're looking for, and it will pull up the class list as well as the teacher's Desire to Learn email addresses. So if you want to email someone, you would just click the checkbox next to their name, scroll down to the bottom, click to or copy if you want to copy them. I'm going to click to. It puts their name at the top, and then an important last step for it to work is you have to go back to the bottom and click add recipients. If you just click to and then close it, it's not going to enter correctly. So always click add recipients, and then you can see it's added next to the to line. Okay, so that is how you save and send a email in Desire to Learn. Okay, so next to your email, you do have your update alerts. Now, I don't have anything in here right now because I'm not in class currently. It's summer term, I'm working, I don't have any active classes. But this is where all your grades will pop up when a teacher releases important information. For example, if there's an upcoming test or if you've written a test and they release their mark for you, there will be a little red dot in front of the symbol right there, letting you know that you have update alerts, and you just click on them and then it'll be a list right here, and you can click on it and it will take you to the information, whether that be in the grades or content, which I will show you a little bit later. Next to your update alerts, you do have subscription alerts. In my experience, teachers and students don't really use this too much, but you do have the option to subscribe to specific alerts, but generally you're going to receive any important alerts without having to subscribe to them. Okay, and to the right of that, you can see will be your name. Now your picture will not be in there by default. You do need to add that, so I'll show you how to do that. If you click the drop down next to your name, you can see you have profile, notifications, account settings, progress, and you can log out. So under profile, you can add your picture. Now I already have a picture in there, so it says change picture. If you're going to it for the first time, it's going to say add picture, and you can do that. I strongly suggest you do this. That way other students that are looking for you that may need to email you for whatever reason, they know who they're emailing. Because you might not know everyone's name that well when you're first starting off. So you can also add other additional information such as your nickname, your hometown. You can add some social networks if you like. I put my Facebook in there. Some people put their Google accounts, Twitter, LinkedIn. And you can also add in additional contact information. Some students choose to add their education or work experience as well as other personal info. Keep in mind this is only an internal system, so only other students and teachers within the Desire to Learn network will be able to see this information. It's definitely not public information. It's only for users of Desire to Learn at Lambton College. Okay, so back to the drop-down box next to your name, you can click on Notifications. This is a service that a lot of students make use of. I find it incredibly useful, as you can send, when you receive emails or update alerts, you can have it sent to either an alternate email address, so you don't have to keep going into Desire to Learn all the time, which you should be in the habit of going to Desire to Learn at least once a day. But if you use, say, a Microsoft account regularly, you can have notifications sent to that. You can see I have it sent to just my regular My Lambton address, which is different than your @D2L address. Another very useful option, if you're very eager to get your marks as soon as they're released by the teacher, you can have certain updates and notifications sent straight to your mobile device. So you can see my mobile number there. I'll trust you guys not to spam me with text messages. So underneath that, you can actually define what messages you want to go where. So you have the option here on the left hand side. You can see that there's content created, discussions, grades released or updated, and you can define whether you want them to go to your email, to your text messaging, which is SMS, or to both. So you can see here whenever grades are released, I've got it sent to send me a text message. Dropbox is when you're submitting an assignment online. I like to have a little reminder so I don't forget. Lets me know it's 2 days away. It's going to email me and text me, which I find very, very useful. Okay, back up to the top right hand corner, you do have account settings. This is where you can change some of your administrative stuff. This is also where you'll go ahead and add your email signature should you choose to. I'll show you how to do that real quick. It's on the email tab on the far right hand side of these three tabs. So you just set it up right in here. It's got some rich text formatting options, and you can go ahead and type in a signature. I copied and pasted this line from a teacher actually that sent me an email and had this in there. I liked it. So please consider the environment memo, which I like to add to the end of my messages so that people aren't printing them off all the time. Okay, so you can go ahead and set some additional options here. You can also set display settings and reply settings for your discussions, which we'll talk about in a moment, and just general account settings like the font you want to view in, and if you're finding the text a little small, you can also change the font size to a little bit bigger, and you have additional options scrolling down. Okay, so all the information we've looked at so far is general information for Desire to Learn. Next we're going to look at information that is specific to the course. Okay, so back up to the top left hand corner where it says select a course, I'm going to go ahead and select one of the courses that I have. We'll click on Human Relations. Now this will bring you to a home page. Your home page is going to look the same for all your courses. It's going to give you your course code at the top along with the course name and these 5 tabs: Lessons, Assessments, Communicate, My Tools, and Grades. Okay, so working from left to right, under Lessons, you're only ever going to have one option under Lessons, and that is Content. Now clicking on Content will take you to, you guessed it, all the content of your course. This is where you're going to spend most of your time in Desire to Learn. Many teachers will load up all their course materials. Some teachers will only choose to load up bits and pieces. Every teacher has a different preference, so you need to be aware of that. This particular teacher has chosen to load up their schedule, their course outline. This was like a day 1 lecture. Now they've also added a tab for your homework as well as the individual units, test outlines, and etc. To access the material, we just click on it and it's going to bring up the material on the right hand side. So you can see the schedule is a Word document, and if you click on the course outline, it's a PDF document, and going through you can see that there's web links and PowerPoint presentations, etc. So to pull up the information, for the example, Lois's schedule, if you want to actually view that, you just click on it and it'll open up right inside Desire to Learn, which is great. Now if you wanted to open up right in Word or whatever program was written in, like if it was a PDF, you could open it up in Adobe, PowerPoints you could open up in Microsoft PowerPoint, etc. You can actually click the download button below the viewer, and it's going to download it externally, and then you can open it up and it'll open up in the correct program. You can also send to Binder. Now Binder is an application you can get for iOS or for Android as well as some Windows devices. It's basically a mobile app you can send material to and manage your online learning that way as well. So here you can see you can view it as only text. This also gives you an option to download it. It's the same as the button down here, and you can also full size the screen to make it easier to view. Okay, so that is lesson content. Next is assessments. Now assessments, there's a couple useful options and a couple options that you won't really use. Use your progress, in my experience, students don't really use because it doesn't give you an accurate depiction of how you're progressing actually through the course, because generally Desire to Learn isn't the only element of your course. You also need to attend class and participate and do the activities outside of Desire to Learn as well. Now one element you will likely use quite often is discussions. Discussions is basically Desire to Learn's version of online blogs. Teachers may post questions or scenarios and ask you guys to discuss them within Desire to Learn. And the way you do that is by clicking on the discussions. Anything that the teacher has loaded up will appear here, and will give you the opportunity to interact and post very much like an online blog. Below discussions you have Dropbox. This is how you're going to submit any assignments to your teacher within Desire to Learn. So if they want you to submit an assignment through D2L, if they say submit it through the Dropbox, this is what they mean. It's under Assessments, you click on Dropbox, and it'll give you the option to submit. Now this class doesn't have any Dropbox set up. I'll click on one that does. Go back to Assessments, Dropbox. So you can see here that there was 2 set up. I only actually submitted to the one, which was August 5th of last year. So I've already got one submission, but if you didn't submit yet, the way you would do that is just go ahead and click on whatever assignment you're trying to submit for, and it's going to pull up the instructions on what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to submit it. It will give you a disclaimer saying if you're unsure of the standards, to talk to your faculty, or you can talk to the Center for Academic Integrity, which is an excellent resource at the college as far as making sure that your work is up to par. Okay, and you can go ahead and add a file. You can drag and drop files from your computer, or you can click the upload button, which is going to bring you to your computer where you can go ahead and add a file, and then you would just click add. The file would appear. You can type in any comments that you like. I usually just put thanks Jason, and then Now here I've already gotten a file, so it says overwrite, but if this is the first time, it would just say submit, and you go ahead and submit file. Okay, so underneath Dropbox, you do have quizzes. Occasionally, teachers may ask you to do a quiz within Desire to Learn. Generally, these are password protected. You can see there's been a few set up here. So if you're ever directed to do a quiz in Desire to Learn, just remember it's on the Assessments tab. Once again, you just click on it, and it's going to pull up the quiz. And you can go to the bottom, Start Quiz. If there's a password required, that will come up and let you know. The teacher will provide that to you. Okay, underneath the quizzes you have self-assessments, which in my experience no one has used to date, but if you're ever directed to do a self-assessment and desire to learn, just remember it's under the Assessments tab, and the same goes for surveys. Okay, some useful information under Communicate. You do have access to your email. It's the same as clicking the link at the top. Go to email under Communicate. Also gives you access to your email, as well as your class list. If you remember under the pager, you could access your class list. You can do that here as well. Now, attendance is something you're not going to need to worry about too much. Teachers do take attendance, generally through Desire to Learn, but it's not something that you will have to concern yourself with. Just be aware that it's there. Underneath attendance, you do have another option for discussions. You can tell that there's some redundancy built into the system just to make it easier to use. This Discussions tab is the same as the Discussions tab underneath Assessments. It's going to bring you to that online blog element. Now, some students find the calendar particularly useful. A lot of students already use a calendar like a Microsoft or a Gmail calendar. But if you're not in the habit of using a calendar and setting up tasks, Desire to Learn has a pretty good calendar. It's got the tasks over here on the right hand side. You can delete tasks, you can add new tasks, and you can set information into your calendar. You can see that it has a day, month list as well as agenda view, just like most calendars generally do nowadays. Okay, and underneath calendar you do have access to your news. News is going to be information that is supplied by your teacher. Any important information they want you to know about will be posted under news. You can see here that there's been a wide range of different topics. Anything from class cancellations to upcoming tests, things like that may be posted under news. Now something to note, when you click on a class at the top, when you first go into it, the homepage is also going to bring up any news. Recent news will show up here, as well as anything that you've put on your calendar or anything that your teacher has put on your calendar. Sometimes your teacher will book a test in advance and I'll actually put it in everyone's calendar so that it will show up here, letting you know that a test is coming up. Okay, so back to the Communicate tab. Underneath News, you do have groups. So occasionally teachers will set up group assignments for you in Desire to Learn. I know this class actually has a group set up. So clicking on it, it's going to pull up whatever groups that you're in. Now this is expired, but now through this option you would have the ability to file share, to see who's in the group, and to submit files to the Dropbox as a group. So any kind of group work that you do in Desire to Learn is going to be underneath the Communicate tab under Groups. Okay, My Tools has a couple options that you may use. Honestly, this is the tab that you'll use the least. Once again, you do have options to get to your groups. It's the same tab that brings you to your groups from the Communicate tab. So there is some redundancy built in just to make it easy to use. Some teachers will load the rubrics under the rubrics button under My Tools. Now you'll find that a lot of times there's nothing under there. A lot of teachers will actually put their course outlines, or rubrics as they're sometimes called, under the lessons content tab. So you can see if I go back here, course overview, sometimes they call it, or course outline, or a rubric. Generally under the content tab, but if it's not there, chances are it's under rubrics, under My Tools. Now competencies, glossary, and system check are three options that you will not have to worry about. Up until this date, I haven't experienced anyone that's needed to use them, but just be aware that they are there in case it ever comes up. Now a tab that you will use quite often, probably the most often other than the Lessons tab, would be the Grades. Now Grades is pretty straightforward. You just click on it and it'll pull up any grades that have been released to date. So I just went ahead and switched my classes here. I'll click on Grades. Now you can see this class is actually completed, so it gives you my final calculated grade. But if you are currently in the course, it would just let you know any class marks that have been released to date. So you can see here I've got a quiz, an avatar exercise, midterm tests, final test, blog assignment, etc. It'll tell you your weight achieved, your grade, and if they've given you any individual feedback, that'll be on the right hand side. Now one thing you'll notice, some of these have a graph next to the item. If it does show the graph, that means that you can click on it and it'll just give you a grade distribution for that particular assignment, which is kind of just nice to see where you stand in comparison to the rest of the students in the class. If you hover over each column, you can actually see the percent or number of users that actually fall into that category. So you can see here 9.52% or 4 users fall between 70 and 75%, and you can see the class average was actually 72.79. Okay, so that is grades. Now this has been Desire to Learn in a nutshell. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you guys have a great time at Lambton College. I wish you the very best, and thanks for watching.